He notices the quiet first, not the good kind. The kind that presses on the ears. The kettle has gone cold on the stove. He doesn't remember turning it off. The hallway light is still on, burning too bright for morning. He steps around a shoe that isn't his. The floor is colder than it should be. He calls her name once, not loud. There's a smell he can't place. Something sweet, wrong. He touches the back of the chair where she sat last night. Still warm. That shouldn't be possible. The door to his daughter's room is open, just enough. He stands there longer than he should. Thinking about the woman asleep on the couch. Thinking about the promise he made years ago and never said out loud. Then he hears breathing that doesn't belong to either of them. And a smile appears where it shouldn't. It had been raining earlier. Not hard. Just enough to leave everything dark and slick. He remembered noticing the way the street light bent in the puddles as he pulled into the driveway, how the engine ticked after he shut it off. He sat longer than usual, hands still on the wheel, letting the day fall away in pieces. Inside, the house smelled like detergent and toast. His daughter had done her own laundry again, folded it badly, left it in piles on the couch like she meant to come back and fix it, but didn't. He moved one stack aside before sitting, careful not to disturb the shape of it too much. She was at the table doing homework she'd already finished once. Pencil tapping, then stopping when she realized he was watching. She looked older lately. Or maybe just tired in a new way. "Dinner?" she asked. "In a minute," he said. He washed his hands longer than necessary. The water was too hot. He didn't turn it down. The sting helped him focus. When he dried them, he noticed a small cut on his knuckle. He couldn't remember where it came from. They ate without the TV on. That had become a rule after her grade slipped. He hadn't explained why he thought silence would help. He just said it. She accepted it, which still surprised him sometimes. Later, when the knocking started, it didn't sound urgent. That was the strange part. No pounding. No panic. Just a pause between each knock, like the person was counting. He stood in the hallway listening. His daughter looked up from the couch. Their eyes met. He could see the question forming before she asked it. "I'll check," he said. He didn't look through the window first. He never did. Old habit from another life. He opened the door and stepped halfway out without thinking. The woman stood under the porch light, one hand on her stomach, the other wrapped around a small bag. Her hair was damp, her jacket too thin. She looked younger than he expected, or maybe older. It was hard to tell. Her face was calm in a way that didn't ask for permission. "I'm sorry," she said. "I know it's late." Her voice was steady. That mattered to him more than it should have. She said she'd missed the bus, said she was headed somewhere nearby, said she just needed to sit for a bit. She didn't say how long. She didn't say why she was alone. He noticed the way she stood slightly angled, like she didn't want to come all the way in. He noticed the bag, the weight of it, too light for someone leaving town, too heavy for someone visiting. His daughter appeared behind him. He felt it before he saw her. The shift in the air. The woman smiled when she noticed her, a soft smile. Practiced. He thought about the promise again. The one that had kept him careful. The one that had kept him from helping people when helping felt dangerous. He stepped aside anyway. The door closed behind them with a sound that landed too final in the quiet house. He told himself it was just for the night. He told himself he was still in control. He gave her the chair closest to the heater. It was the one his daughter usually fought for in winter. Tonight she didn't argue. She watched instead. Quiet, too observant. The woman lowered herself carefully, one hand braced on the table, breath shallow but controlled. Not a performance, something practiced through repetition. He poured water without asking, set it in front of her. She thanked him like it mattered. Her name came easily when he asked. Too easily. It slid out without hesitation, without the small delay people usually had when deciding whether to lie. That unsettled him more than if she'd stumbled. She didn't look around much. Not curious, not scanning, just present, like the room was exactly what she expected. His daughter asked how far along she was. The question came out blunt. No softness. He felt a flash of irritation, then something else. Pride, maybe. Or worry. 7 months, the woman said. She rubbed her stomach as she said it, but her eyes stayed on him, watching for something. Approval. Permission. He couldn't tell. They offered soup. She ate slowly. Stopped halfway through like she'd had enough even though the bowl was still warm. He noticed she folded her napkin before setting it down. Neat edges. Too neat. At some point, he realized he was talking too much. Explaining things she hadn't asked about. The house, the neighborhood, the school nearby, his daughter's schedule. He didn't know why he kept filling the silence. The woman listened, nodded at the right moments, asked one question about the locks on the doors, framed it like concern, like safety. He answered without thinking. When it got late, he showed her the couch, brought extra blankets. His daughter lingered in the hallway pretending to need water. The woman smiled at her again, said goodnight in a voice meant to be remembered. He locked the door after, checked it twice. That, at least, was familiar. In his bedroom, he lay awake longer than usual. The house made its normal sounds. Pipes ticking, wind moving through the trees, but there was another sound layered beneath it. Breathing. Slow. Measured. Not anxious. He thought about getting up, about checking the hallway, about standing in his daughter's doorway just to see her sleeping shape under the blankets. He didn't. Morning came unevenly. Light slipped through the blinds in thin bands. He noticed the smell first. Not smoke. Not gas. Something sweet. Artificial. The hallway light was still on. He stood up too fast. The room tilted. He steadied himself on the dresser. The floor felt colder than it should have. Her door was open. Not wide. Just enough. He called her name once, then again, louder. The sound didn't travel the way it should have, like the house was holding it. The bed was empty. Blankets folded back, neatly. Too neatly. Her backpack was gone, shoes missing from their place by the door. The couch was empty too. No woman. No bag. No blankets. On the kitchen table, a single cup sat rinsed and upside down. Next to it, his phone. He didn't remember leaving it there. The screen lit when he touched it. One missed call. Unknown number. The door to the house was unlocked. He stood there longer than made sense, waiting for something to shift back into place. For a sound. A laugh. A mistake. Nothing did. Then he saw the note. Not a letter, just a folded piece of paper. His daughter's handwriting on the outside. Careful. Controlled. Like she'd taken her time. His hand shook when he picked it up. He didn't open it right away. From the hallway he heard breathing. Not his. Not hers. He turned. The woman stood there, framed by the light, smiling in a way that didn't reach her eyes. Her stomach looked smaller. Straighter. Like something had been removed. "You should read it," she said softly. And in that moment, he understood that letting her in hadn't been the mistake. It had only been the beginning. He unfolded the note like it might cut him. The paper was warm. That didn't make sense. Or maybe it did. Maybe she'd just written it. Maybe his daughter had written it hours ago, hands pressed flat against the table, trying to keep the lines straight. The first sentence wasn't a cry for help. That was what hit him first. It was calm. "Dad, don't call the police, please." His throat tightened. He read it again, slower, like different words might appear. The woman stayed in the hallway. She didn't move closer. She didn't need to. She was already in the house. Already inside everything. He kept reading. "I'm sorry. She said you would try to stop it. She said you wouldn't understand. She said this is the only way." His hand crumpled the edge of the paper, then flattened it again. His breathing started to sound too loud. He looked up. The woman's smile didn't change. "She wrote that," he said. His voice came out rough, like he hadn't spoken in days. "I know," the woman replied. He wanted to ask where his daughter was. The question rose in him hard and fast, but something colder pressed it down. A part of him that had survived other moments knew not to beg first, knew that begging gave away the last thing he still owned. Instead he asked, "What did you do?" The woman tilted her head slightly like she was considering whether the question deserved an answer. "Nothing," she said. "I didn't do anything to her." He stared at her stomach again. It sat wrong. Not the shape of a woman who'd been carrying a child. Not swollen, not heavy, just flat under the jacket, like it had never been there. He felt sick. "Where is she?" he said. The woman took a step forward. Slow, careful, like she didn't want to startle an animal. "She's safe," she said. "But you need to listen. If you make noise, if you call anyone, she won't be safe anymore." He didn't answer. His hands were still holding the note, but his fingers had gone numb. He couldn't feel the paper now. Only the pulse in his wrist. The woman's eyes flicked toward the front door. "You didn't even check," she said quietly. "You didn't look through the window. You didn't ask for an ID. You didn't call a neighbor. You didn't do anything." Her voice wasn't mocking. That was worse. It sounded like an observation, like she'd been studying him. He swallowed. "She was cold," he said. "She was pregnant," the woman corrected. "That's what you saw." He tried to think, tried to rewind the night, the soup, the napkin folded too neatly, the question about the locks. He could see it now, like a thread running through every moment. Every word had been placed. His daughter's room, the hallway light, his phone on the table. His mind went to the windows, the back door, the basement. He moved without warning, pushing past her, crossing the living room in 3 long steps. The back door was locked. He yanked it anyway. Twice. The deadbolt held. He checked the windows. All latched, no broken glass. No signs of force. That meant she hadn't taken her out through the back. She'd used the front. He ran to it, turned the knob, and felt his stomach drop. Unlocked. He stood there, staring at the lock like it had betrayed him personally. Behind him, the woman spoke again. Her voice was closer now. "I unlocked it," she said, "so you wouldn't waste time trying to break your own door down." He turned so fast his vision blurred. "You were still here," he said. "Yes," she answered. "I was always going to be." His eyes scanned her hands. No weapon. No phone visible. No bag now. Nothing bulky under her jacket. Nothing that explained how she'd made a child disappear from a locked house. "How did you get her to go?" he asked. The woman looked at him like he was slow. "She went because she wanted to," she said. "She went because she trusts people. Because she's like you." His jaw tightened. His shoulders felt stiff, like his body was bracing for a hit that hadn't come yet. "She wouldn't just leave," he said. The woman's smile faded for the first time. Only slightly, but it changed the air in the room. "You don't know everything about your daughter," she said. "You think you do, but you don't." That landed somewhere deep. Not because it was clever, because it was true in a way he didn't want to admit. He worked too much. He missed things. He knew he did. He told himself providing was enough. Keeping the house stable. Keeping food in the fridge. Keeping her away from the things he'd grown up around. He thought that counted as being there. Now the house felt like a prop. He stepped toward her. Slowly, not threatening, but close enough to make her adjust her stance. "You're going to tell me where she is," he said. The woman didn't step back. She held her ground. "No," she said, "because you'll go running. You'll go loud. And then she'll get hurt." He stared into her face. He searched for something human. Fear. Guilt. Anything. There was nothing. Only patience. He forced himself to breathe through his nose, forced himself to unclench his hands. "What do you want?" he asked. That question finally made her blink, like she'd been waiting for him to arrive there. She walked past him and sat down at the kitchen table again, the same chair she'd used the night before. Like this was her home now. "I want you to remember something," she said. "Something you buried." His stomach tightened again, but for a different reason. He didn't respond. He didn't give her the satisfaction. She leaned forward slightly, elbows on the table, hands clasped. "You used to be good at finding people," she said. The words were quiet, almost casual, but his body reacted like someone had fired a gun. His throat went dry. He hadn't told anyone that. Not in years. Not even his daughter. Not even the few people who still spoke to him from that old part of his life. The woman watched his face carefully. "There it is," she murmured. "I knew it was still in you." His pulse hammered in his ears. He hated that she could see it, hated that she could pull that reaction out of him like a string. "You're wrong," he said. The woman's mouth curved again, just a fraction. "I'm not," she replied. "And your daughter isn't gone because of your kindness. She's gone because you thought you could stop being who you are." He felt his hands shaking now, not with fear, with something darker, something old. His mind flashed to a different house, years ago. A door kicked in, a man begging, a child crying in the next room. The smell of bleach. He pushed it away hard. He stared at her. "What is this?" he asked. "Who are you?" The woman's eyes stayed on his. "Someone who knows what you did," she said. He didn't move. Then she reached into her jacket pocket and placed something on the table. Not a weapon. A photograph. He stepped closer and looked down. It was old, slightly bent at the corners. A printed photo, not a phone image. The kind people carried when they wanted proof. It showed him, younger, leaner, standing beside a car he hadn't seen in over a decade. His face was turned slightly away, but it was him, no question. And beside him, half in frame, was a man on his knees, hands tied behind his back. His stomach turned. The woman tapped the photo lightly with her finger. "You thought that part of your life was gone," she said. "But it isn't." He felt the kitchen tilt. His grip tightened on the table edge. He didn't sit. He couldn't. His voice came out low. "If you hurt her," he said, "I will." The woman cut him off calmly. "You will do what you already know how to do," she said. "Yes, that's the point." He stared at her, realizing something that made his skin crawl. She didn't want money. She didn't want escape. She wanted him back, and his daughter was the leash. He didn't pick up the photograph. He kept his hands where they were, flat against the table edge, as if touching it would make it real again, like it would drag him backward. The woman watched him with the same steady patience. She looked comfortable now, not relaxed, but certain, like she had already measured the room, the exits, the weight of his decisions. He forced himself to look away from the photo. "How did you get that?" he asked. She didn't answer right away. She reached for the cup that had been turned upside down earlier and flipped it over, slowly, like she was correcting something that bothered her. Then she ran her thumb along the rim. "You left a lot behind," she said. "But you didn't erase it. You just walked away and assumed the world would do the forgetting for you." He felt heat rise in his neck. Not shame. Not exactly. Something sharper. The kind of anger that comes when someone speaks about your life like it's a story they own. "You don't know what you're talking about," he said. Her eyes flicked up to him. "I know you didn't stop because you suddenly became a good man," she said. "You stopped because you were tired, because you thought you could outrun it." He swallowed. His mouth tasted like metal. He remembered the last night, the one he'd never said out loud, the one that had ended with his hands shaking and his shirt soaked through, not from rain. He told himself he was done. He'd told himself he was choosing his daughter. He'd meant it. But the woman was right about one thing. He hadn't paid for it. He'd just left. He leaned back, breathing carefully. He didn't want her to see him breaking. "What do you want me to do?" he asked. The woman's smile returned, small and satisfied, as if she'd been waiting for that exact phrasing. "Not yet," she said. "First, you need to understand the rules." He stared at her. His stomach tightened. "Rules," he repeated. She nodded. "No police," she said. "No friends. No calling around, no posting, no acting like a desperate father who lost his child. That version of you will get her killed. He felt his jaw clench. The words desperate father hit him harder than he expected, because it was true. That was what he was. But she was talking like it was a weakness, like it was something to be ashamed of. And if I don't listen, he asked. The woman tilted her head again. Then she disappears in a way you can't chase, she said. Not even with your old skills. He stared at her, trying to decide if she was bluffing. He'd dealt with threats before. He knew the difference between someone playing a role and someone who had already crossed the line. This woman didn't have the nervousness of a liar. He felt his mind splitting into parts. One part wanted to grab her, pin her to the wall, shake answers out of her until her teeth rattled. The other part pictured his daughter's face, the way she used to fall asleep on the couch with her head on his leg, the way she looked at him when she thought he wasn't paying attention, the quiet trust in her eyes. That part of him won. He spoke slowly. Is she alive? He asked. The woman didn't hesitate. Yes, she said. Right now. That right now sat in the air like smoke. He looked down at the note again. The handwriting was hers. He knew it the way you know your own name. The loops, the pressure marks where she pressed too hard. But something felt off. Not the words. The shape of the emotion. His daughter didn't write like that. Not that careful. Not that controlled. She'd written it under someone's eyes. He could see it. Her trying to make the lines neat because she was scared. Her trying to obey because she thought that would keep her safe. His fingers curled into a fist. The woman leaned forward. You're going to leave the house, she said, in 10 minutes. He looked up sharply. And go where? He asked. The woman slid something across the table. A key. Old-fashioned. Metal. No plastic cover. No label. He stared at it. Storage unit, she said. Across town. You'll open it. You'll take what's inside, and you'll bring it back here. His stomach dropped. He already knew what would be inside. He didn't know how, but he knew. Because there were only a few things from that life he'd never destroyed. Things he'd hidden away instead, pretending that was different. Things he told himself he kept for protection. He stared at the key like it was a live insect. I don't have time, he said. My daughter. You have time, the woman interrupted. Her voice sharpened slightly. The first real crack in her calm. You have exactly as much time as you're given. He stood there breathing hard. He wanted to throw the key at her. He wanted to deny it, refuse it, pretend he still had options. But his options were already gone. They had left with his daughter. He reached down and picked up the key. The metal felt colder than it should have, like it had been sitting in a freezer. The woman watched his hand close around it. Good, she said. He moved past her toward the hallway, then stopped. What if I don't come back? He asked without turning. The woman didn't sound amused. She sounded almost bored. Then you'll spend the rest of your life wondering where she screamed, she said. He stood very still. His fingers tightened around the key until it hurt. He walked into his bedroom and shut the door behind him. Locked it, even though it didn't matter. The act was automatic, something small he could still control. He opened the closet and pushed aside a row of hanging shirts. At the back, behind an old shoebox, was a small safe bolted into the wall. He hadn't opened it in years. He told himself it was just in case. He told himself it was for her. He entered the code. His hands didn't shake. That scared him. The safe door clicked open. Inside were 3 things. A thick envelope with cash he'd never touched. A phone with no contacts saved. And a pistol wrapped in cloth, the metal oiled cared for. He stared at it longer than he should have. He thought about the last time he held it. How heavy it felt. How natural. How easy it was to slip back into that version of himself. He didn't want to, but he reached in and took it anyway. He checked the magazine. Full. He didn't remember loading it. But he must have. At some point, he must have stood here and decided he couldn't live completely unarmed. He slid it into the waistband of his jeans. covered it with his shirt, and stood there breathing until his chest stopped moving so fast. When he walked back out, the woman was standing by the front door as if she owned it. She looked him up and down. "You still carry it," she said quietly. He didn't answer. His daughter's backpack wasn't in its usual place. That absence hit him like a punch. A small detail. A loud one. He grabbed his keys off the hook. The woman opened the door for him. That small gesture, that false politeness, made his stomach twist. He stepped onto the porch and felt the cold air bite his face. The street looked normal. Cars parked, a neighbor's porch light still on, the world moving like nothing had happened. He turned back. "What happens while I'm gone?" he asked. The woman's eyes stayed steady. "Nothing," she said, "if you do what you're told." He hesitated. Then he forced himself to nod once and walk down the steps. He didn't look back until he reached his car, and when he did, the woman was still standing in the doorway, smiling. Not because she was happy, because she knew he was leaving his house unlocked on purpose now, because she knew he was stepping into the trap willingly. He got into the car and started the engine. The sound was too loud in the quiet street. His hands gripped the wheel so tightly his knuckles went pale. As he pulled away, his eyes caught something in the rearview mirror. His daughter's bedroom curtain moved slightly. Just a small flutter, like someone had brushed past it. He didn't stop the car. He couldn't. And that was the first real cost. Not the gun, not the key, but the fact that he drove away anyway. The storage place sat behind a row of auto shops and a closed-down laundromat. He'd chosen it years ago because no one came out here unless they had to. The road leading in was cracked, patched over so many times it looked like a scar that never healed properly. The fence leaned slightly inward, and the sign had one missing letter, like even the name had given up. He parked near the far end, away from the office window. The air smelled like wet cardboard and gasoline. Somewhere nearby, a radio played faintly through a half-open garage door. It sounded cheerful. That made it worse. He sat in the car for a moment with both hands resting on the steering wheel, trying to slow his breathing. The gun pressed uncomfortably against his hip. He adjusted his shirt over it and felt the weight settle. Familiar. Too familiar. Too familiar. He hated that his body stopped resisting once it was there. He got out and walked toward the units. The key felt heavier now, like it had gained weight on the drive. He turned it over in his fingers, watching the teeth catch the light. There was no tag, no number, but he already knew which one it belonged to. Unit 114. He didn't know how he remembered. He just did. The lock was new. That hit him as soon as he saw it. Silver, clean, not rusted like the others. Someone had changed it recently. Someone had been here. Not long ago. His throat tightened. He checked the row behind him, the one across. No one watching. No one walking. But the feeling didn't leave. He slid the key in. It turned smoothly. The door rolled up with a low grinding sound, metal on metal. The noise echoed down the corridor of units like it was announcing him. Inside, the smell was old fabric and dust. Dry air trapped for years. He blinked against the darkness, then stepped in. He'd expected bosses. Maybe a bag. Maybe something wrapped in plastic. Instead, there was a chair. Just one. Wooden, simple, set in the center like it belonged there. Like someone had placed it carefully. In front of it, on the concrete floor, was a plastic container with a lid. The kind you'd store leftovers in. His stomach twisted. He stepped closer, slow, every part of him bracing. The chair wasn't dusty. Neither was the container. Someone had been here today. He looked up at the ceiling. No camera. At least none he could see. But that didn't matter. Cameras weren't always obvious. He crouched and lifted the container lid. Inside was a phone. Not his old one. Not the one in his safe. This was different. Sleek. New. Fully charged. Beside it was a folded piece of paper. His hand hovered for a moment before taking the note. He unfolded it. One sentence. Answer when it rings. Don't speak first. He stared at the words. No signature. No name. Just instruction. His jaw clenched so hard his teeth ached. He stood and looked around again, as if the person who wrote it might still be hiding behind a stack of invisible boxes. But the unit was empty, except for the chair, the container, and him. He picked up the phone. It turned on instantly. No passcode. The screen showed one contact saved. Home. His chest tightened. He should have thrown it against the wall, crushed it under his boot, walked out and burned the whole unit down. Instead, he stepped back out into the open air, pulled the door halfway down, and locked it again. He didn't know why he did that. Habit. Control. A stupid belief that closing the door meant closing the past. The phone vibrated in his hand. Once. Then again. A call. He stared at the screen until the vibration stopped, then started again. His thumb hovered over the answer button. His heart beat hard enough that he could feel it in his throat. He answered. He held it to his ear. He didn't speak. For a few seconds there was only silence. Then breathing. Soft. Close. Not the woman from his house. A man. "You still follow instructions," the voice said. The words were calm, almost friendly, but the tone carried something else. A familiarity that didn't belong. The man sounded older. Not old, but worn. Like someone who'd lived in smoke for years. The father didn't respond. He couldn't. His throat felt locked. The man chuckled quietly. "Don't worry," he said. "I'm not calling to threaten you. That part comes later." The father's fingers tightened around the phone. "What do you want?" he said finally, breaking the rule the note had given him. The man didn't correct him. He didn't punish him. He just breathed once, slow, like he was enjoying the moment. "I want you to come home," the man said. The father's stomach dropped. "You're already home," the man continued. "You're just pretending you aren't." The father closed his eyes briefly. A flash of memory hit him without warning. A warehouse. A concrete floor. A man's voice laughing while someone cried. He forced his eyes open. "If you have my daughter," he said, "you tell me where she is." The man's tone shifted slightly. So calm, but colder now. "She's alive," he said, "and she's quiet. She's doing what she's told. Because she's smart." The father's chest tightened painfully. The man continued. "The woman you met last night did her job. She brought you back into motion. That's all she was meant to do." He gripped the phone harder. "You used her," he said. The man laughed softly again. "Everyone is used," he replied. "Some people just don't notice until it's too late." The father looked out at the storage yard, the cracked pavement, the fence, the dull sky. He felt like he was standing inside a photograph, something fixed. "What is this?" he asked. "Why are you doing this?" The man's voice went quiet. Not softer, just more focused. "Because you owe me," he said. The father's stomach tightened. "I don't owe anyone," he said. The man didn't raise his voice. He didn't argue. He just said one name. A name the father hadn't heard in years. Not spoken. Not written. Not even thought about on purpose. It hit him like a blow. His knees almost buckled. He caught himself against the side of the car, fingers scraping paint. The man continued speaking, voice even. "You remember him," he said. "You remember what you did. And you remember why you did it." The father's mouth went dry. He tried to swallow but couldn't. His mind flashed again, hands tied. A pleading voice, blood on concrete. His own breathing loud in his ears. His own hands steady when they shouldn't have been. He hadn't killed that man. He told himself he hadn't, but he left him there. That was close enough. The man on the phone spoke again. "You were good at your work," he said. "Better than most. Quiet. Efficient. Not emotional. Until you got soft." The father's vision blurred for a moment. He blinked hard. "I left," he said. "I'm done." The man let the silence stretch. Then he said, "No, you're not." The father's hands shook now. Not from fear. From the fact that the man was right. He could feel it. The old instincts waking up. The part of him that noticed the placement of the chair, the cleanliness of the container, the new lock. The part that measured time and distance without thinking. He hated that part, but it was still there. "You want money," the father said, forcing his voice steady. "Take it. You want me to disappear, I will. But you leave her alone." The man exhaled, almost like a sigh. "You still think this is negotiation," he said. "It's not." The father's jaw tightened. "Then what is it?" he asked. The man paused, then, softly, almost gently, he said, "It's a test." The word settled in the air. "A test," the father repeated. "Yes," the man said, "to see if you can still do what you were made to do, to see if you can still protect what you love, without pretending you're someone else." The father's grip tightened around the phone until his fingers hurt. "What do you want me to do?" he asked again. This time the man answered. "There's a man named Colin Reyes," he said. "He lives 15 minutes from you. He works at a small finance office. He has a wife, 2 kids. He drives a gray sedan. And tonight, he's going to meet someone he shouldn't." The father's stomach turned. The man continued, "You're going to stop that meeting." The father felt his chest tighten. "How?" he asked. The man's voice was calm. "However you want," he said. "But you cannot call the police. You cannot warn him. You cannot tell anyone. You're going to handle it the way you used to." The father stood still, staring at nothing. A cold wind moved across the storage yard. He felt the gun against his hip again, like it was reminding him it existed. He swallowed. "If I do this," he said, "I get my daughter back." The man didn't answer right away. "Den," he said, "if you do this right, you get to keep her." The call ended. The father stared at the phone screen. It went black. He stood there for a long time without moving. Then he got into his car. And as he drove back toward his house, he realized something he hadn't allowed himself to think yet. He wasn't being asked to save his daughter. He was being asked to become dangerous again. And someone out there was going to enjoy watching him do it. He didn't go straight home. He drove past his street once. Slow, windows down just enough to let the cold in. The house looked normal. Too normal. The porch light still on. Curtains drawn. Nothing broken. Nothing loud. He kept going. There was a gas station a few blocks away. One that stayed open all night even though it never seemed busy. He pulled in and parked at the edge, far from the door. Sat there with the engine off, phone in his hand, staring at the dark screen like it might light up again on its own. It didn't. He breathed in through his nose, out through his mouth, counted without realizing he was counting. He needed to think, not plan. Thinking felt different now. Planning felt dangerous. Planning meant commitment. He reached into the glove box and pulled out an old pair of gloves. Leather. Worn soft. He didn't remember when he put them there. Only that he had. He slid them on. The fit was still right. That bothered him more than anything else. The name the man had said kept repeating in his head. Colin Reyes. Ordinary. Too ordinary. That was the point. The man on the phone knew what kind of pressure worked best. He started the car again and headed back toward his house. This time, when he parked, he noticed the neighbor's car across the street, the dent in the rear bumper, the kid's bike lying on its side in the yard. Small details, his brain cataloging things without asking permission. He hated it. Inside, the house was quiet in the same wrong way as before. The woman wasn't visible. That didn't mean she wasn't there. He didn't call out. He moved through the rooms slowly. Kitchen, living room, bathroom, everything in place. Too neat. Like someone had taken care not to disturb anything. She stood in the hallway near his daughter's room. He hadn't heard her move. "You went," she said. He stopped a few feet away, kept his hands visible. The gun stayed hidden. "Yes," he said. She studied his face, then nodded once, as if confirming something for herself. "Good," she said. Then you understand. I understand that you're not pregnant, he replied. A corner of her mouth lifted, not defensive, amused. I never said I was, she said. He didn't argue. He didn't waste energy on it. What happens to my daughter while this is happening? He asked. The woman's expression shifted slightly. Not softer, just more serious. She's being watched, she said. She's not being hurt. That's not an answer, he said. It's the only one you get, she replied. He looked past her at the door to his daughter's room. It was closed now. Hadn't been earlier. That detail landed hard. Don't go in there, the woman said quietly. He stopped himself. Barely. You're going to sit, she continued, gesturing to the couch. You're going to wait, and when the phone rings, you're going to answer it. And if I don't? He asked. She met his eyes. Then you'll never hear her voice again, she said. He sat. The couch dipped under his weight, the same spot where his daughter used to curl up with her feet tucked under her, the smell of her shampoo still faint in the fabric. Time stretched. He stared at the wall, at a small crack near the corner he'd meant to fix for years. His leg bounced despite his effort to keep it still. The phone vibrated. He picked it up immediately. Yes, he said. This time the man didn't tell him to wait. You're on schedule, the man said. That's good. What do you know about Colin Rays? The father asked. The man didn't answer directly. He made a choice, he said. A series of them. Like you did once. That doesn't make him you, the father said. No, the man agreed. It makes him weaker. The father closed his eyes briefly. What do you want me to do to him? He asked. The man paused, just long enough to feel intentional. I want you to stop him, he said. Tonight, before he ruins something he thinks he deserves. And if I refuse? The father asked. The man didn't raise his voice. Then your daughter learns what it feels like to wait for someone who isn't coming, he said. The line went dead. The woman was watching him again, too closely. He's not wrong, she said. You know that. He didn't respond. He stood and walked to the front door, put his hand on the knob, stopped. Do you enjoy this? He asked without turning. The woman considered the question. No, she said. I believe in it. He opened the door and stepped out into the cold. The street light buzzed softly. Somewhere a dog barked. Normal sounds. Normal life. He got into his car. As he pulled away, he realized something else. They hadn't told him where to find Colin Reyes, because they didn't need to. He already knew how to look, and that realization sat heavy in his chest as the city slid past him, lights blurring at the edges, his reflection faint in the windshield. Not heroic, not dramatic, just a man driving toward a decision he could never undo. He started with the easiest place, the finance office. It sat in a small strip mall beside a nail salon and a fading restaurant sign that still promised breakfast all day. The parking lot was half empty. A few cars. Nothing that looked like trouble. He parked across the street and watched. He didn't go inside. He didn't need to. Not yet. The man on the phone had given him just enough details to narrow it down. Gray sedan. Wife. 2 kids. Meeting someone he shouldn't. That meant routine. That meant patterns. He sat in the car with the engine off, the radio silent, and watched the door. He remembered doing this once for money. Sitting for hours. Waiting. Learning the way someone walked, the way they checked their phone, the way they turned their head when they thought no one was looking. He hated how easily the old patients returned. After 40 minutes, Colin Reyes walked out. He was taller than the father expected. Not broad, not strong-looking, but not weak either. He wore a jacket that still had a tag hanging from the zipper. His hair was neat, his shoes clean. A man who cared about appearances. He walked with purpose, but there was a tightness in his shoulders, like he was carrying something he didn't want to name. He got into the gray sedan. The father watched the car pull out, waited 3 seconds, then followed. He kept two cars between them at first, then one. He didn't ride close. He didn't need to. The streets were busy enough to hide him. Colin drove like someone who didn't want attention, stopping fully at signs, signaling early, staying just under the speed limit. That told the father more than it should have. A guilty man doesn't drive fast. A guilty man drives careful. Colin crossed town, away from the strip malls and into quieter neighborhoods. Not rich, not poor. The kind of place where people trimmed their lawns even when they didn't want to. Where porch lights came on automatically at dusk. He turned into a driveway. The father slowed and kept going, eyes forward, acting like he belonged. In the mirror, he saw Colin step out of the car, look at the house, hesitate, then go inside. The father drove around the block and parked where he could still see the front of the home from a distance. He sat there, waited. It didn't take long. 20 minutes later, the front door opened again. Colin came out carrying a bag, not a suitcase, a gym bag, small enough to look casual, big enough to carry something important. He walked quickly to the car and tossed it into the back seat. Then he stood there with his hand on the door, staring at the house as if he was trying to remember something, as if he was already regretting it. The door opened again. A woman stepped out, not the one from the father's house. This one was older, late 30s maybe, wearing a robe, barefoot. She didn't come down the steps. She just stood in the doorway, arms crossed, saying something the father couldn't hear. Colin didn't respond much. He nodded once, then got into the car. The woman stayed there until he backed out of the driveway. The father watched her close the door. Then he followed again. Colin drove toward the highway. The father's hands tightened on the steering wheel. This was the moment where he should have stopped, called someone, done something clean, something that didn't involve his own hands. But the woman's voice echoed in his mind. You used to be good at finding people. And the man's voice, however you want, the way you used to. He stayed behind Colin for 10 minutes, letting the distance widen and shrink naturally with traffic. His eyes kept flicking to the side streets, searching for a place where it could happen without witnesses. Colin exited onto an industrial road lined with warehouses and empty lots, streetlights spaced far apart. The kind of place that went quiet after 5. The father's stomach tightened. Colin turned into a parking lot behind a closed shipping company. He parked near the far end, away from the road. He didn't get out immediately. He sat there, head bowed slightly, hands on the wheel. The father parked 2 rows away, angled so he could see without being obvious. He watched Colin for a full minute. Then Colin's phone lit up. He checked it. His shoulders tensed. He got out of the car and walked toward the far edge of the lot where a chain-link fence separated the asphalt from a patch of dead grass. He stood there like he was waiting for someone to arrive. The father got out of his own car. The cold air hit his lungs hard. The ground was damp. His shoes made soft sounds against the asphalt. He walked slowly, not rushing, not hiding either, just approaching like he belonged there. Colin didn't notice him until he was close enough to hear the father's footsteps. Colin turned quickly. His face shifted in an instant. Surprise first, then fear, but controlled. Like his body wanted to panic and his mind forced it down. "Can I help you?" Colin asked. His voice cracked slightly on the last word. The father stopped a few feet away. He didn't threaten him, didn't raise his voice, didn't pull the gun. He simply said, "You're Colin Reyes." Colin's eyes narrowed. "Who are you?" he asked. The father held his gaze. "Someone who knows you're about to meet a person you shouldn't," he said. Colin's face tightened. He glanced toward the road, then back. "I don't know what you're talking about," Colin said. The father nodded slowly. "You do," he said. Colin's jaw clenched. "Look," Colin said, voice lowering, "if this is about money, I don't have—" "It's not about money," the father interrupted. Colin swallowed. He shifted his weight. His hands were open, palms visible, like he was trying to appear harmless. The father could see the fear in his eyes now. Real fear, not the kind that comes from getting caught cheating. The kind that comes from realizing the wrong person knows your name. The father took one step closer. "You need to leave," he said. Colin stared at him. "I am leaving?" Colin replied, but his voice wasn't convincing. The father watched him carefully. "No," he said. "You need to leave town. Tonight. You need to go home, pack, and disappear. You don't come back here. You don't take that meeting. You don't answer that call." Colin's eyes widened. "What call?" he asked. The father didn't respond. Colin's breathing became shallow. He looked around again, more frantic now. The fence. The empty lot. The darkness beyond the streetlights. "How do you know where I am?" Colin asked. The father's voice stayed calm. "Because someone wants you dead," he said. Colin froze. The words hung in the cold air. Colin's mouth opened slightly, but nothing came out. His face drained of color. The father could almost see the moment Colin understood that this wasn't a prank, that this wasn't some angry husband. This was something else. Colin whispered, "Who?" The father didn't answer. He couldn't. He didn't know the name. Only the voice. He stepped closer again. "You need to listen to me," the father said. "Right now, you're going to get in your car. You're going to drive home. And you're going to pretend you never came here." Colin stared at him like he was looking for the lie. Then Colin's phone rang. The sound cut through the silence like a blade. Colin's eyes snapped down to the screen. His hand shook as he held it up. The father saw the name on the caller ID. Home. The same as his phone. Colin looked up, terrified. "I don't understand," Colin whispered. The father felt something cold spread through his chest. This wasn't just about dragging him back. This was bigger. This was a network, a system, a machine that had more than one hook. Colin's phone kept ringing. The father reached out and grabbed Colin's wrist before he could answer. Colin flinched hard, pulling back, but the father's grip was firm. "Don't," the father said. Colin's eyes filled with panic. "If I don't answer," Colin whispered, "they'll—" The father's voice was low. "I know," he said. Colin stared at him. The phone still ringing. The sound growing unbearable. The father could feel his own pulse in his fingertips. He made a decision. Not a clean one. Not a good one. But a decision. He tightened his grip and said, "Give it to me." Colin hesitated. Then, shaking, he handed the phone over. The father lifted it to his ear and answered. He didn't speak. For a moment there was silence. Then the man's voice came through, calm and amused. "You're early," the man said. The father's jaw tightened. "I'm here," he said. The man chuckled softly. "No," he said. "You're not. You're holding someone else's phone." The father's stomach dropped. The man continued. "Tell Colin Reyes hello for me." The father's eyes flicked to Colin. Colin looked like he might collapse. The father spoke into the phone, voice controlled. "What do you want from him?" he asked. The man's tone stayed smooth. "From him," he repeated. "Nothing. He's not important." The father's grip tightened. "Then why?" The man cut him off. "Because you are," he said. The father's chest tightened painfully. He understood now. Colin wasn't the target. Colin was bait. And the father had just walked right into the center of it. The phone felt heavier than it should have in his hand. Colin stood frozen in front of him, eyes locked on the screen like it might explode. His breathing had gone shallow, fast, the kind that tips into panic if it isn't checked. "Give it back," Colin whispered. "Please." The father didn't move. "Into the phone," he said. "You said stop him." "I stopped him." A pause, not silence. Breathing. Then the man laughed. Not loud, almost fond. "You did," he said. "That's true. You always were good at improvising." The father's jaw tightened. "This ends now," he said. "You let my daughter go." The man didn't answer immediately. When he did, his voice had shifted. Less playful. Sharper. "You don't get to decide when things end," he said. "You gave that up a long time ago." The father closed his eyes for a brief second. When he opened them, Colin was watching him like he was watching someone drown. "You said this was a test," the father said. I passed. Another pause. Did you? The man replied. Or did you just prove my point? The father felt the trap close in another notch. You didn't hurt him, the man continued. You didn't scare him enough. You didn't finish it. I wasn't told to kill him, the father said. The man exhaled slowly. No, he agreed. You weren't. The silence stretched. Then, softly, but you were hoping I wouldn't notice. The father's grip tightened on the phone. You said, stop him, he repeated. And I did. Yes, the man said. For now. Colin made a small sound, almost a whimper. He backed up a step, then another, until his back hit the fence. The chain links rattled softly. The father lowered the phone slightly, just enough to look at him. Get in your car, he said quietly. Drive home. Don't answer any calls. Don't meet anyone. If someone shows up, you don't open the door. You understand me? Colin nodded too fast. Go, the father said. Colin didn't argue. He turned and ran to his car, fumbling with the door, dropping his keys once, then getting inside and slamming it shut. The engine roared to life, and the car peeled out of the lot, tires screeching briefly before disappearing down the road. The father watched the taillights vanish. Then he lifted the phone again. Why him? He asked. If he doesn't matter. The man's voice was calm again. Because you needed to remember what restraint feels like, he said. You needed to feel its strain. The father swallowed. You're sick, he said. The man didn't deny it. Maybe, he replied. But I'm honest about who I am. You're the one who keeps pretending. The father stared out at the empty lot, the fence, the dead grass, the dark spaces between lights. You've been doing this a long time, he said. Yes, the man replied. Long enough to know that men like you don't stop. They just go quiet. They wait. The father felt something settle in his chest. Not fear. Recognition. How many others, he asked. The man paused. Enough, he said. The father closed his eyes again. Just for a second, images surfaced uninvited. People he'd tracked. Doors he'd stood outside. Decisions he'd made because someone else paid him to. He opened his eyes. You don't need me, he said. You already have people. The man chuckled softly. I have tools, he said. I don't have you. The words landed heavier than a threat. You're different, the man continued. You question yourself. You hesitate. That makes you dangerous in the right way. The father's voice went low. And my daughter, he said. Where does she fit into your philosophy? Another pause. Then, she's leverage, the man said simply. The father's hand shook. He steadied it against his thigh. You promised she was safe, he said. She is, the man replied. For now. The words echoed. For now, the father repeated. Yes, the man said, because this wasn't the real test. The father felt his chest tighten. This was warm-up, the man continued, to see if you'd still move, if you'd still choose action over denial. The father leaned back against his car. The metal was cold through his jacket. What's next? He asked. The man didn't answer right away. When he did, his voice had changed again. Lower, more deliberate. Now, he said, you come home. The father's stomach dropped. I'm not finished, the man added, and neither are you. The line went dead. The father stood there for a long moment, phone pressed to his ear, listening to nothing. Then he lowered it and stared at the dark screen. He realized something then. Something small but sharp. They had let Colin go, not because the man didn't care, but because letting him live made this heavier, more complicated, more personal. The father got into his car and drove back toward his house. The streets looked different now. Too open. Too exposed. Every parked car felt like it might be watching him. Every intersection felt staged. When he pulled into his driveway, the porch light was off. That hadn't been the case before. He shut off the engine and sat there, listening. No movement. No sound. He stepped out of the car and approached the front door slowly. It was unlocked. He pushed it open. Inside, the house was dim. Only the hallway light on again. Always the hallway. The woman stood at the end of it. But something was different. Her posture was tighter, her hands clasped together in front of her like she was holding something invisible. "You came back," she said. "Yes," he replied. Her eyes searched his face. "Did you do it?" she asked. "I stopped him," he said. She nodded once. But there was no satisfaction this time. Only calculation. "Then he'll be pleased," she said. The father stepped closer. "Where is my daughter?" he asked. The woman hesitated. Just a fraction too long. His body reacted before his mind did. He grabbed her wrist and twisted it just enough to make the message clear. Her breath hitched. "Where?" he repeated. She met his eyes. Something like fear flickered there for the first time. "She's not here," the woman said. The father's chest tightened painfully. I said she was safe," the woman interrupted. "I didn't say she was close." He released her wrist slowly. "You lied," he said. "Yes," she replied. "So did you. For years." He stared at her. "You think this ends with you," she said. "It doesn't. I'm just here to watch, to make sure you don't break the rules." He felt something harden inside him. "What rules?" he asked. The woman's voice went quiet. "You don't run," she said. "You don't fight the system. You do what you're told. And when it's over, maybe you get to keep what's left of your life." The father looked past her at the empty house, at the quiet that no longer felt accidental. He realized then that this wasn't a ransom. It was recruitment. And the cost wasn't just what he would do, it was what he would become again. He stepped past the woman and into his daughter's room. The bed was still empty, but on the pillow was her stuffed animal, the one she never slept without, placed carefully, facing the door, like a reminder, like a warning. He stood there, staring at it, feeling something inside him shift. Not snap, not explode, just settle. He turned back to the hallway. "This ends," he said quietly. The woman watched him with something like curiosity. "No," she replied. "This continues." He met her gaze. "Not the way you think," he said, and for the first time since this began, he wasn't reacting. He was choosing. He didn't sleep. He sat in the chair by the window until the sky began to thin, watching the street change color 1 degree at a time. The woman stayed in the house, but not close. She kept her distance now, like she could feel something had shifted and didn't want to stand too near it. He thought about his daughter, not as she was taken, not as a victim. He forced himself to remember her doing ordinary things, forgetting her lunch, laughing at things that weren't funny, falling asleep with the light on because she swore the dark felt different lately. He held on to those details. They grounded him. When the phone rang again, it didn't make him flinch. He answered without moving from the chair. "Yes," he said. The man's voice came through immediately. "You're awake," he said. "Good. I don't like wasting daylight." The father looked out the window. "You shouldn't have let Colin go," the man continued. "Mercy confuses people." "He wasn't the problem," the father replied. The man hummed quietly. "Still deciding who deserves what," he said. "That hesitation is why I picked you, and why you'll never be free." The father didn't argue. "What's next?" he asked. The man paused, then said, "A woman named Elise Hart. She lives alone. She works nights. She's been helping someone move things that don't belong to them." The father closed his eyes briefly. Not in fear, in calculation. "Is she violent?" he asked. "No," the man replied. "She's useful." The father's jaw tightened. "So was Colin," he said. "Yes," the man agreed, "until he wasn't." The father leaned forward, elbows on his knees. "And if I refuse?" he asked. The man didn't raise his voice. "Then we move your daughter again," he said. "And next time she won't get to leave a note." The words landed. Hard. Final. The father stood. When? He asked. Tonight, the man said. I'll send you the address. The call ended. The father remained standing, phone still at his ear. Behind him, the woman spoke. You're quiet, she said. He turned. You're unnecessary, he replied. Her eyes narrowed. That's not your call, she said. He studied her for a long moment. Her posture, the way her weight favored one leg, the way she positioned herself between him and the hallway without seeming to. You think you're here to watch me, he said. You're not. She didn't respond. You're here to make sure I don't disappear, he continued. Because if I do, this whole thing collapses. Her expression shifted. Not anger. Alarm. You don't understand, she began. I do, he interrupted. Better than you think. He stepped closer. Not threatening, certain. You're the weakest link in this, he said quietly. Not because you're soft, because you're close. Her mouth tightened. If you touch me, she said, you won't see her again. He nodded once. That's the lie you've been told to repeat, he said. But it's not true. Her breath caught. They don't trust you, he continued. If they did, they wouldn't need you here. They'd already have me chained to the work. Silence stretched between them. You're afraid, he said. Not of me, of what happens when I stop listening. The woman looked away first. That was enough. He turned and walked past her, grabbed his jacket, his keys. You're leaving, she said. Yes, he replied. You're not allowed, she said. Louder now. He stopped at the door. Then stop me, he said calmly. She didn't move. He opened the door and stepped outside. The morning air was sharp, clean, too clean for what he was about to do. He drove without urgency, without disguise, letting the world see him, because for the first time since this began, he wasn't acting under pressure. He was acting under intent. The address came through as a text. He read it once. Then he did something the man hadn't accounted for. He turned the car in the opposite direction, toward someone he hadn't spoken to in years, someone who knew what he used to be, someone who had walked away before he did. The risk wasn't small. It was enormous. But so was the alternative. He parked outside a low building with no sign on it, just frosted windows and a locked door that buzzed when you pressed the button. He hesitated only a second before pressing it. A voice crackled through. Yes? It's me, he said. Silence. Then, you're not supposed to exist anymore. I know, he replied. But my daughter does. The door unlocked with a sharp click. He stepped inside, feeling the weight of the choice settle fully onto his shoulders. Whatever happened next wouldn't just decide whether he got his daughter back. It would decide whether this thing ended at all. And he was done letting other people write the rules. The hallway inside smelled like old coffee and paper that had been handled too many times. The lights were too bright. They always were. He remembered that. No shadows. No corners to hide in. A place built for people who wanted to see everything clearly, even when it hurt. The man waiting for him looked smaller than he remembered. Older. Thinner around the edges. But his eyes were the same. Sharp. Tired. Unforgiving. You shouldn't have come, the man said. I didn't come for permission, the father replied. They stood there for a moment, measuring the distance between them. Years collapsed into silence. Everything they hadn't said stacked up and waited. Finally, the man stepped aside. Sit, he said. The father did. He told him enough. Not everything, just the parts that mattered. The woman. The calls. The system that pulled men back in by using what they loved. He didn't dress it up. He didn't justify himself. When he finished, the other man leaned back in his chair and rubbed a hand over his face. They never stop, he said quietly. They just change shapes. I know, the father replied. And you think coming here fixes that, the man said. No, the father said. I think it gives me one chance. The man studied him again. You're not asking me to help you disappear, he said. You're asking me to help you burn it. Yes. The man laughed once. Short, bitter. You always did aim too high, he said. He stood and walked to a cabinet, unlocked it, pulled out a thin folder, set it on the desk between them. "They've been sloppy lately," he said, confident. "That's what happens when people think fear is enough." The father didn't touch the folder. "What's the cost?" he asked. The man met his eyes. "You don't get to walk away this time," he said. "No clean ending. No quiet life after." The father nodded. "I already lost that," he said. The man pushed the folder closer. "Then read," he said. Inside were names, places, patterns. Not everything. Enough. Enough to pull on the right thread. The father stood. "I'll bring her home," he said. The man's expression softened, just slightly. "I know," he replied. "You always did." Outside, the sky had fully broken into morning. The city moved like it always had. People going to work, kids waiting for buses, life pretending it wasn't balanced on small, terrible decisions. He drove back toward his house knowing it wouldn't be there much longer. Knowing the woman would already be gone. Knowing the man on the phone would build a shift before the day was over. By nightfall, the rules would change. Not because he was stronger, because he stopped pretending he could carry this alone. When he finally saw his daughter again, hours later, she ran into him without hesitation. Arms tight around his waist, breathing hard, alive. He held her longer than he ever had. Nothing inside him celebrated. Something inside him finally went quiet. Not relief, resolve. What this experience changed wasn't his courage or his skill. It stripped away the lie that he could protect what he loved by staying small. He would carry that weight for the rest of his life. But he would choose how it was used, and this time it wouldn't be against him.